but this stuff is, this is a serious part of our business that really affects what we do, but it's also really simple. I mean, it's extremely simple. It's a lot of times this business is so simple and then we complicate it ourselves. So some of this is going to be kind of coming back to fundamentals and being reminded of some fundamental things with the phone script and tie down. And some of it is going to be a little bit new with how we've learned to tie down virtual appointments. But yeah, so, I mean, one of the reasons Brian had asked me to come on and talk to his, and one of the reasons, like he had, is because we've all, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. We've all switched this year from in-person appointments to virtual appointments, right? We used to go set appointments to sit down with people in person, and, the coronavirus thing come around and now appointments are virtual. The thing with virtual appointments is they're way more efficient, right? They are way more efficient. What is the thing that we know about efficiency, though? Everything that's more efficient, also there's a price to pay for it, right? And the price to pay for us with appointments being more efficient is we have to get better. All right, we have to get better. We used to be able to get away with not being so great on the phones with the tie down and with, doing things properly because we could keep showing up at people's houses, right? If they weren't there for the appointment, we'd swing back after the next appointment. Sooner or later, we were going to catch them, right? So it's a little bit harder for them to, avoid being home all day than it is to click on the link that you emailed them, right? So this is going to be a training about learning how to get better instead of just wishing it was easier, right? There's a lot of you guys that have already mastered the virtual sales and you guys are killing it and crushing it, right? And there's some of you that still just haven't really leaned into the uncomfortableness of learning something new. Because let's be honest, most of the problems with the sit ratio is because it's just different. It's different now and it's new to us. And, when things are new and we're out of our comfort zone, the tendency is desperation rises, right? And when desperation rises, standards fall, right? And somebody said the other week on a call, we never rise to the level of our expectations. We always fall to the level of our standards and habits, right? So we have to just kind of learn to lean into this uncomfortable bit and learn. And honestly, even if what I'm talking with you about today and training, if this is all new to you, understand it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks for some of you of continually practicing this and practicing this and practicing this till it comes around, but stick with it. So let's jump into this. The first thing I kind of start with is let's come to an understanding that there's really only 3 reasons why someone doesn't meet with you. If you booked an appointment, they agreed to meet with you, and then you show up and you get zorched, as we call it now that it's virtual appointments. There's really only 3 reasons, right? So the first thing is really kind of figuring out and understanding if you're having a sit ratio problem, like your sit ratio should be 70%. You should be able to sit with 70% of the appointments you book. So if you're not hitting that, really kind of figuring out which of these 3 reasons is why they're not meeting with you. Reason number 1 is they honestly forgot. They completely slipped their mind, completely forgot that they had a meeting with you, and they legitimately forgot. Reason number 2 is they didn't really want to meet with you, or they decided not that they didn't want to meet with you today, right? They did want to meet with you, but then today got busy and they decided they didn't want to meet with you today. Not a priority. Reason number 3 is something honestly came up. Life happens, work schedule changed, something happened with the kids at school, something honestly come up, and they need to reschedule, right? So 2 of those reasons we are in control of. 1 of those reasons we have 0 control over, right? Number 3, something honestly coming up, is the one that we don't have any control over. That's why sit ratio is never going to be 100%. If you have a week where your sit ratio is 100%, guess what? Next week you owe the numbers, so prepare for it to average itself out. But reason number 1 and 2, we have control over. We act like owners because we own it, right? The fact that if they honestly forgot, that probably means we didn't do a very good job on the tie down. If they decided, not to meet. They just didn't want to meet with us today. Procrastinate, kick the can down the road, reschedule, whatever the excuse was. Probably we didn't have a mutual understanding of who they were trying to protect the home for, who was in danger of losing the home. We didn't have a mutual understanding of the problem to solve. And that's still on us. Now, good sit ratio is a two-sided coin. It takes really having a clear understanding of who they're trying to protect the home for and why. And then the other side of that coin is an effective tie down. You're not going to have a good sit ratio without mastering both of those things. Okay. Some of you guys do a really great job at the tie down, but you do get a little weak and sloppy on who they're trying to protect the home for and why, right? Sit ratio is still going to be a struggle. Some of you guys do a really good job of who they're trying to protect the home for and why, but you get a little sloppy on the tie down, right? You're still going to struggle with sit ratio, right? It takes both sides of that coin for an effective sit ratio. And honestly, from my experiences with coaching people, myself, when I run appointments, coaching other people, everybody wants to focus on the tie down part for sit ratio. And 90% of the time, it has nothing to do with the tie down part. Most of the time you guys run, most of the time it's uncomfortable to kind of dig in a little bit to who they were trying to protect the home for and why. And we get, we don't push into that because we're afraid of not getting an appointment if we push into that. And that's where most of the time the problem lies, but we're going to get into that. So today I've dubbed this 3 steps to a 70% sit ratio. So we're going to go over 3 reasons and 3 steps, 3 keys to a 70% sit ratio. Number 1 is mindset, right? And these 3 steps, they're in the exact priority order that they should be. So it starts with mindset, right? If your mindset isn't proper, if your mindset isn't right, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what comes out of your mouth. They're not going to believe it. They're not going to believe it because you don't believe it, right? It's sell or be sold, right? If you don't believe that you can lose weight, are you going to go to the gym and run on the treadmill? Of course not, because running on the treadmill is not fun, right? And let's be honest, the phones is the least fun thing we do in this business. That's the thing that we, dread the most, is the actual work on the phones. So it's the sell or be sold and having the proper mindset. Kind of like what we talked about a little bit ago, that we never rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our standards. And when our mindset is messed up, our standards fall. Desperation rises, standards fall. Kind of also that old saying by Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you're right. Right. We talked on the last boot camp about the mindsets and habits of top producers, right? We all see these top producers in the company in the Field Interagency. We had them on the sales panel for the boot camp. And it's really easy to think that, well, they're top producers because they have some special tip or trick that works. And that's not true. They're top producers because they have the mindsets and habits of top producers, right? So the first thing is getting your mindset. The book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter, he always says results are a byproduct of our actions are a byproduct of our feelings, and our feelings are a byproduct of our beliefs, right? So hence, you want better results, you're going to have to change your beliefs. You're going to have to change your mindsets on some things, because until you do, you're going to continue to recycle the same past experiences and habits. So what are some of the proper mindsets when it comes to sit ratio that you really need to make sure you're starting with? Let's touch base on a couple of those. One of the first ones is, these families probably wouldn't have responded to a piece of mail if they weren't concerned about someone in their family losing the home, or someone in their family financially having a difficult time if they were to pass away, right? How many of you guys on here have ever responded to a piece of direct mail? I have never, ever responded to a piece of mail, right? In fact, I've never responded to any type of an ad if I didn't have a serious, I wasn't seriously considering purchasing it, right? I think there's only 2 times in my life that I've had a salesperson come over to my house. One was when I was looking to put new doors on the house, and one was for an ADT home security system. right? By the time I decided to look into an ADT security system, I already knew as long as it fit the budget, there was a concern that I had. So like I already knew that as long as the price was right and the product seemed good, that, you know, I was going to move forward with it, right? The reason when I called the ADT home security guy, I remember it was the day I was in the car business, and I was sitting at my desk kind of looking out on the lot, waiting for customers to come in, you know, and all of a sudden I noticed the house across the street, there's like flames coming out of the windows, right? They're, you know, rolling. Fire department comes, they start putting out the fire, but, you know, nobody was home. They were all at work. So by the time, you know, the fire department was notified by it, the house was pretty much, you know, gone. And I got to thinking that day, like, man, me and my wife, we both work. We got 2 little dogs at home. If the house catches fire while we're not home, till the fire department got there, the dogs would probably be dead, right? So I got online, looked up home security systems, put in an inquiry with ADT, and set up an appointment for him to come over, because I already had a concern, right? I didn't just do that all willy-nilly, right? So the first one is understanding and adapting the mindset, getting back to like these people wouldn't have responded if there wasn't someone in their home that they were worried was going to be in a financial difficult situation at their passing, right? Number 2 mindset is that if there was actually someone in their family that was financially going to struggle if they were to pass, they probably are going to want to meet with us about finding a solution to take care of that, right? That's only going to be natural. Another mindset that's really good to kind of, you know, make sure you got going is if these people can remember their other appointments and show up for those, whether it's with their doctor, whether it's with the cable guy coming to fix cable, whether it's with the internet guy, whether it's with, you know, whatever. People, everybody in life has appointments, right? And if these people can remember their other appointments week, 2 weeks out, then surely if this is important to them, they can remember our appointment time, right? Like if they can remember their other appointments, why in the world wouldn't they be able to remember ours? And the last kind of mindset I have down here is homeowners should be more open to meeting with us virtually than in person, right? Let's be honest. Homeowners would prefer a virtual meeting to an in-person appointment 90% of the time, because it's less intrusive to them. They don't have to worry about, you know, their house being cleaned up. They don't have to worry about if you're a high pressure salesperson that they don't like and you're showing them something too expensive. They don't have to figure out how to get you out of their home, right? So homeowners are more open to meeting with us virtually, right? So those are kind of some of the mindset things, first off, fundamentally, to kind of really kind of have, because it starts with mindset, right? So let's move on to step 2 of a good sit ratio, 70% sit ratio. This is the part where I honestly think most people struggle. And that is having a mutual understanding of a problem to solve, right? Because we don't want to have to sell a product. We want to be able to solve problems, right? We don't want to have to, people don't want to meet with a salesperson. They don't, right? And if you don't have a problem to solve, one, they're going to view you as a salesperson that's just looking to book an appointment with them to sell something. 2, if there isn't a problem to solve, there's not an appointment to tie down, right? If there's not a problem to solve, there is no appointment to tie down, right? So, and let's talk about why is it, like, you know, because I know for me, when I started, I was like, well, they already know what the problem to solve is because they sent this in. So why do we have to get back into that over the phone? Well, it's because it's human nature to, you know, like when a lead comes in the mail, it talks about if you pass away, become critically or disabled, does your family need some additional insurance to make sure they don't lose the home? That bothered their conscience enough that they didn't throw it away. They responded to it. But what is human nature? Out of sight, out of mind, right? They're not going to continue to sit around and worry about that. They're going to kind of numb it out, right? The same as we all have in life. We've all known someone in our family or friend circle had a heart attack, you know, something health-wise happened, and for a brief period, we get really health conscious ourselves. But then a week, 2 weeks later, we're not seemingly so health conscious anymore, right? Because we don't like, human nature isn't to sit around and worry about things. It's actually to block them out, right? It's not a fun thing to think about, the situation that your family is in. So a lot of times, we kind of numb it back out. We don't like to deal with the reality of it. And because if we deal with the reality of it, now we have a decision to be made, right? And we would rather be able to procrastinate with it. So I'm gonna, Ian, if you're available, I kind of want to role play how it is, that we come to a mutual understanding. We call it in our agency, we call it the emotional wound, digging into the emotional wound, right, over the phone. Because kind of the reason we call it the emotional wound is because it's kind of like people sent the lead in, and then they put a Band-Aid over that concern. They put a Band-Aid over that fear they had, and they stopped thinking about it. And we got to kind of identify where that emotional wound is, and we got to pull that Band-Aid off and kind of poke at it again to remind them, hey, remember that feeling? Remember this problem? Because that's going to bring the urgency back around to where it's a priority to meet with us. This is where the value in them meeting with us is going to be, so that they don't decide that they don't feel like meeting with us today. So Ian, are you on here? You can role play with me, and if not, I'll pick somebody else.
Yeah, you got me.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to role play two different scenarios. The first one, I want it to be the traditional, husband or wife protecting the home for their spouse or each other. The second one I'm going to role play with you is a parent protecting the home for their kids, right? Because I want to show how it's really important that when we get to this part of the script, that we slow down and we don't rush it. Because this is where the tone of the script suddenly changes. This is where suddenly you hear the serious tone come over the conversation, to where now we can go into a proper tie down once we got this. So I'm going to pretend like I just got through all the health information, got down through, everything down to the mortgage. So Ian, it looks like here the mortgage for you guys was around $150,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, we made a couple payments on it, but that's pretty close.
Okay. And what is your monthly your mortgage payment on that coming out to?
It's about $890.
$890. Okay. So this is the insurance that if something were to happen to you, you were to pass away, become critically ill or disabled, it covers the mortgage. Who is it you were worried about making sure that mortgage was taken care of for if something were to happen to you?
Probably my wife.
Okay. So your concern was that if something were to happen to you financially, it might be a little difficult for her to take care of the mortgage and other bills on her own?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. Right. That's it. That's all the further I had to dig back into that. Right. But here's what happens a lot of times when desperation rises. It's, I got the mortgage information. Okay, Ian, so who were you trying to protect the home for when you sent this in? Oh, your wife. Okay, that makes sense. Rushing through to the tie down. No. Take their mind back to the reality of the situation. Oh, okay. So your concern was that if something happens to you, it might be a little difficult for your wife to take care of the mortgage and other bills on just her income. Engage their reaction, right? If they're saying, well, no, it wouldn't be. Okay. Well, you still don't have a problem to solve. Now you got to dig a little deeper to find what is the problem. Okay. So if somebody's, to me, if somebody says, well, no, they wouldn't struggle. We have other insurance. Oh, okay. So, this type of insurance is not required. This is completely optional insurance. So if she wouldn't struggle, what would be the reason you'd want to consider taking out some additional insurance? They're going to have to give me something, right? Because once we've come to a mutual understanding of what the problem is, now I have an appointment to tie down. If there is no problem to solve, there is no appointment to tie down, right? Let's say they said, a lot of times they say, you got the health information for both of them. And they say, well, really, we need to look at some options on both of us. Oh, okay. So your concern was that if something happened to either one of you guys, it's going to be a little difficult for the other one to take care of the mortgage and other bills on their own. I gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. Now I can move into a tie down, right? Because now their brain just went back to the reality of the situation. And this usually at this spot, this is where all of a sudden you kind of hear this quietness that come over the phone, this serious tone. And they're like, yeah, that's right. Right now, that's where the priority over the next several days, this is going to be a priority to them to take care of, because now their mind just went back to the problem, and that's going to add value to meeting with us. Ian, let's role play though now. if it's a parent protecting it for their kids. So Ian, looks like the mortgage here was around 150,000. Is that right?
Where am I key?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay. And how much is your monthly mortgage payment on that with everything included?
It's about $900 a month.
$900. Okay. And this is the insurance that if like something were to happen to you, it covers the mortgage, takes care of it. If something were to happen to you, who is it you're trying to make sure that mortgage was taken care of for? Was it your spouse, your kids, someone else in the family?
Well, no one lives here with me. Probably my kids.
Okay, they got places of their own.
Yeah, they're out on their own.
Gotcha. So your concern was you just were wanting to make sure that mortgage payment was taken care of so that if something happened to you, they weren't having to come up with that $900 while they were also going through your belongings and deciding what to do with the home.
Yeah, yep.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Right. Now, now there's a mutual understanding of why it is we're meeting and what it is we're going to take care of. Right now, there's going to be value there to be added. Right. If you don't dig down into that, you don't have an appointment to tie down. Let's just be honest. If you don't dig down into that and you don't have a clear understanding up front, you're going to, if they are there, there's still a percentage of them that are going to be there. You're going to be left to have to start that conversation on the in-home, right? Get in this over the phone just a little bit. You don't want to get too deep, but just a little bit over the phone sets the stage for a proper conversation in the home, right? Because the day or two leading up to you meeting with them, like when they're laying their head down at night and those things that we try to put off thinking about all day long come into our mind, those are the thoughts. Oh, Tom's coming over tomorrow, or Tom's meeting with me on Zoom tomorrow to talk about the situation here. Man, like I do need to get this taken care of, right? That thought process starts happening. Now, I want to throw a word of caution right here at this spot. If you're digging into those things for the purpose of backing them into a corner, they're going to sense it. And it's not going to be any good. Your motive has to be pure. Your motive has to be seeking to understand so that you can help. If your motive is manipulation, they're going to sense that. They're going to view you as a salesperson just the same. So you have to make sure that your motive of asking these questions isn't to back them into a corner. The motive of asking these questions is to seek to understand what the problem is so you can help, just like a doctor. You know, when a doctor has to answer you all those uncomfortable questions about your health, about your diet, about those things, it's so that he can help you, right? So getting close to timer. So let's move on to step number 3 of a 70% sit ratio. This is the effective tie down, right? We have changed some things now with the tie down because now we're meeting with people over Zoom. We're meeting virtually. We're not showing up at their house. It used to be we just said, hey, can you do me a huge favor? Can you put a little note here so you're going to remember I'm going to be stopping by between 6 and 7 o'clock or whatever. Now it's different. So Ian, I'll kind of have you on here again to kind of role play this tie down real quick. So Ian, okay, that makes sense. I can understand what you're trying to accomplish here. Well, I'm going to work with all the different companies, see who has the best prices and options for you. Then after that, we're going to have to get back together for about 15 to 20 minutes to go over these options and answer any questions you might have so you can go from there. We just traditionally do that over the computer. Do you got a computer, tablet, or smartphone? If I emailed you a link, you'd be able to get back on to go over these?
Yeah, I have a tablet and a smartphone.
Okay. And what time of day do you guys typically get home from work?
Evening, typically by 5.
Okay. You guys are both home from work by 5 and would be able to be in front of the computer?
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like the next availability I have for that time of evening is probably on Monday. My schedule's getting a little full, but I can probably try to squeeze you in around 5 o'clock-ish on Monday. If you guys think you'd both be able to be in front of the computer. I'll email you a link over here sometime in the next hour or two. Hey, can you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
When you see that email come through from me, can you shoot me a text back at this number so I know it didn't go to your spam folder or get stuck in my outbox or anything like that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, awesome. I'd appreciate it. I'll get to work on this here. You have a great weekend in the meantime, and just shoot me a text when you see that link come through in the next hour or two.
Perfect. Will do.
Perfect. Right. Over the phone, that is all I'm asking commitment-wise from them. I'm asking for a little bit of commitment and buy-in. Like, hey, when you see that email come through, first off, make sure they agree to it. Don't rush this either, because it's really easy to say, hey, can you do me a huge favor? And when you see that email come through, can you shoot me a text back at this number, blah, 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 blah. They didn't agree to anything, right? Hey, can you do me a huge favor? Pause till they acknowledge, right? Because once they acknowledge, like, now they're actually agreeing to something. Hey, can you do me a huge favor? Yeah, what's that? Hey, when you see that email come through in the next hour or two, can you shoot me a text back at this number to let me know you got it? So I know it didn't go through your spam folder, didn't get stuck in my outbox, something like that. Yeah, sure, I can do that, right? Now they're agreeing to text me back. Again, I always say in the next hour or two, I am not a big believer in as soon as you book the Zoom appointment, send them the Zoom link, right? Dial time is dial time. I'm not sending the Zoom links until I'm through the stack. And then I'm going to send the Zoom links before I start the stack over. Just my personal thing. That's why I say the next hour or two. Okay, so now they agreed to text me back. I got through my stack. I am sending out the Zoom links. I know I asked them to text me back and they agreed to it, but once I send them the email, I am actually going to go ahead and text them. I'm going to go ahead and text them and say, hey, Ian, I actually just sent that email over to you. When you get a few minutes, can you check your email and let me know if you got it all right? And he's going to say, sure. Like, what do we all want to do? When we get a text message, we feel the need to respond, right? He's going to text back and he's going to say, nope, didn't get it. Yes, I did get it. Whatnot. Sometimes I wrote the email down wrong, right? So sometimes they didn't get the email because I wrote something in the email address down wrong. He's going to text back, though, and say yes or no. Most likely to say, yep, I just got it. Perfect, Ian. Hope you have a great weekend. Hey, and if you could do me a huge favor, make sure to put this on your calendar so you guys don't forget about what time we're meeting on Monday. That'll just help me out a lot. And what do you think he's going to text back? He's saying, sure, yeah, I can do that, right? What do you think the odds are? Now you're the guy in their phone that they're texting. You're not the insurance agent, right? You're the person that's in their phone that they're texting. Have a great weekend. Thanks, you too. This casual dialogue going back and forth. Rapport starts to be built, right? But two, do you think they're honestly going to forget about you at this point? If they're texting you back and forth and they're like, yeah, sure, I can put this on my calendar, right? And you get this going back and forth. The odds of them forgetting about you are not very high, right? So let's recap real quick for sake of time. There's only 3 reasons why people don't show up for a meeting that they agreed to. 1, they honestly forgot about you. 2, they didn't really want to meet with you or didn't want to meet with you today. Wasn't a priority. 3, something legitimately come up, right? Number 3 is, the reason we can't control. Number 1 and 2 through these 3 steps to a 70% sit ratio are the ones we can control, right? We can only control what we can control. So again, those 3 steps are: 1, proper mindset. Whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you're right. Number 2, making sure we have a mutual understanding of the problem to solve, right? Who is it you were trying to protect the home for? We call it the emotional wound in my agency. Making sure we have a mutual understanding of the problem to solve so that now we can do step number 3, which is an effective tie down. Get commitment from them that when they see the email come through, they'll shoot you a text back at this number to let you know that they got it. This way, it didn't go to their spam folder, didn't get stuck in your outbox, or make sure you didn't write down the email address wrong. Go ahead and shoot them a text when you send them the email anyway, and then get some text message dialogue going back and forth with them and remind them and ask them, hey, can you make sure to put this on your schedule so you guys remember what time we're meeting on Monday, right? And now you're getting that dialogue back and forth. That's the training that I had that I did with first of all, this is how I train my base shop. My base shop sit ratio averages around 70%. It always, again, a brand new agent, it takes 3 weeks to get the sit ratio good. But we're still doing the Friday, Saturday dials in my base shop. And even with Monday, Tuesday appointments, we're still seeing a 65, 75% sit ratio, right? So this is the kind of 3 steps that we focus on. I hope that was of help to you guys. I hope there was some value to it. Ian, I want to kind of pass this back to you, man, to kind of close it down with any final thoughts or any calls to action you got.
Sure. Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate you setting this up for us and preparing and bringing it